Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Becca, and today we're going to be talking about some tips and tricks that I've adapted over the years to create the most skin-like makeup finish for your base. So this actually started out as an idea for an Instagram post, which I did post and create, and I will link that in the description box below. It's 6 tips for the most skin-like makeup base. But as I was creating this post, I realized there's so much more I wanted to say that I just couldn't fit into the post for the sake of brevity. And I really wanted to demo some of these techniques because everything I'm about to share is less product specific. It's more technique and category specific, let's just say. So my first tip is to use lightweight skincare. And by that, I don't mean that you should cut out hydration or moisture from your skincare routine at all. I love a deeply hydrating, sort of plumping skincare routine in the morning. But I do try to avoid heavier textures in moisturizers and sunscreens, for example. Those are the kinds of textures that actually add texture to the skin and sometimes can risk product pilling over it. So for example, if you've ever gone to apply a foundation over a really heavy skincare routine, sometimes the product can roll and create those little balls on the skin, and you sort of have to start your routine over. That's what we really want to avoid. So the textures that I look for are hydrating serums, gel creams, and fluid SPFs. I've already done my skincare routine before filming, but I will show you the demo of what I used. So first I used the La Roche-Posay Hyalu B5 serum. So this is a pretty standard hyaluronic acid serum. It's hydrating, it contains B5, which I think is panthenol or madecassoside. Either way, it's deeply hydrating. It sort of plumps up the skin. It creates a nice glow. The next product I used is the Youth to the People Superfood Air Whip Moisture Cream. So this is a gel cream with a sort of whipped formula. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it's super lightweight. It delivers hydration without adding a lot of texture to the skin. And of course, if you have dry skin, you may want to opt for something more emollient, or you may want to opt for something like a facial oil. I think that's a really efficient way of delivering hydration, moisture, emollients to the skin without adding a lot of texture the way something like a heavier moisturizer might. So of course, adjust this to your skin type, but think about how many layers and how much you're adding to the skin. And then I finished off with the Nivea UV Super Water Gel SPF 50. So this is a Japanese SPF that I've shared many times. It's a chemical SPF, no white cast, super fluid, absorbs really quickly. I find this pretty hydrating. If you have drier skin, you can definitely opt for a richer SPF, but just keep that idea in mind overall about not adding too much texture, about working in sort of light, thin layers that deliver the appropriate amount of hydration and moisture to the skin. So now let's talk about makeup. So my philosophy here is to use the least amount of product with the least amount of coverage to achieve the appropriate and desired amount of concealing, of color correcting, of general evening out the tone. I say the least amount because we want to start conservatively and add coverage later in the routine only where needed with concealer. So we will get to that, but first let's talk about selecting a makeup base product. My preference for this type of base is the Dior Backstage foundation in Too Warm Olive. I talk about this foundation all the time, and if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that, just because it has really excellent adjustable coverage from light to like a medium coverage. It won't ever go up to a full coverage, but you can just add a little bit here and there, blend it in, and it looks really skin-like. And I think this is great for, I would say, oily to normal skins. If you are normal to dry, I would go for the MAC Face and Body Foundation. So these are actually both called the Face and Body Foundation. They're quite different. The MAC version is much dewier, but still long lasting because it has these sort of film formers that set down, but it's very lightweight. And it has buildable coverage to a sort of light medium, but it's never gonna be full coverage, and it's very fluid. So in general, you want to look for lightweight, sort of fluid, easy to spread base products that will give you sort of an evening quality to the skin all over without giving you serious coverage. And if there are any spots that you want to cover, we'll get into that next. So my third tip is to apply your base makeup with your fingers or with a sponge. So this may be a bit polarizing if you are a foundation brush lover. And don't get me wrong, I love a foundation brush, but in general, I find that I get the most skin-like finish when I use my fingers or a sponge. So I used to hate applying base makeup with my fingers, and I kind of still do, but I love the finish of it so much that I've been doing it a lot lately. And I have to admit, there's something about the warmth of your fingers and your ability to sort of touch the skin and sort of get in the nooks and crannies of your face that has given me the most skin-like finish and allows me to really have a lot of control over the makeup application. If applying makeup with fingers is not your thing, I totally understand. I think a makeup sponge is a great idea, and I really like these ones from Miss A. It's the Paw Paw sponge. They're like $1 maybe, and I get these in a pack of 6 for like $5 or something. They're actually the closest dupe that I have found for the Beauty Blender, which I still think is superior, but I don't always want to drop 20 bucks on. These are a great, super affordable dupe. If you have dry skin and you're after a dewier, sort of more glowy look, I think a damp beauty sponge is perfect for you because just that little tiny addition of water and moisture in the sponge will sort of give you a dewier finish overall. So this may seem sort of like an obvious point, but it's a point that I have to stress, which is that when you select a base product, make sure that it's the right shade for you, both in terms of depth and in undertone. And I say that because our skin tones change throughout the year from season to season, and you want to make sure that the product you're using is appropriate for your skin tone currently. And you also want to make sure that you have the most seamless blend from face to neck. So I use 2 different types of concealer. You don't have to do this, but I just like to. So for under eyes, I have my Armani Power Fabric Concealer. So this is a natural finish. It is buildable to a high coverage, but I like that it's also very adjustable in coverage. So if I apply just a little bit, it's very fluid and spreadable across the eye, and it gives me coverage where I need it. With under eye concealer, you also want to make sure that you are not applying a ton of product around your eyes that gives you that cakey sort of bunches up in your fine lines, like that sort of look. We're going for the thinnest layer of even coverage possible. So don't do the sort of triangle under the eye that influencers love to do. I actually just like to do a dot under the eye near my tear duct and a dot in the outer corner. For concealing around the face, I really love the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer. So it comes in a pot. It can be very high coverage, but I really love this. Even though it's a full coverage concealer, that's actually why I love it for this look, because I can use just a little bit of product and get a lot of coverage, whereas if I wanted coverage on a spot with my Armani concealer, I would have to use a lot more product. And in general, the rule is use the least amount of product possible, right? You don't want any cakiness, you don't want any heaviness on the skin, which is why I really love to spot conceal with something high coverage that I blend out really well. And I also love the texture of this concealer because it is sort of matte, but if you blend it out with your fingers, I actually find that it takes on the finish of whatever base product is under it. So if I'm using something dewier, it's not like I have a dewy cheek and then just a matte spot in the middle where I've covered something up. It actually takes on the finish of the products underneath it and around it when it's blended well. And I like to use a very, very small brush for the most controlled application. So this is the Esam V09 brush. It's tiny, as you can tell. And so it's actually really perfect. I sort of pick up product with the brush and I'm able to apply it in really, really small spots on my face. So for example, I have a bit of pigmentation there in these spots here, and I'm able to keep the coverage really controlled and targeted rather than applying a lot of coverage over a large plane of the face. And then I take my finger again and I just sort of tap it out. So now we are on to powder, and in my opinion, this is a major make or break step when it comes to a skin-like base. So dry skins may just avoid powder altogether. You might not need it at all. I am someone who's combo oily, and I definitely need powder, especially in the summer and especially in my T-zone. So generally when we think of powder brushes, we think of these really big brushes. This is the Real Techniques powder brush. This is a Hakuhodo brush. And these are great for delivering a sort of quick application of powder across large planes of the face. That said, because they are so big, it's really easy to over apply powder or to get powder where you don't want it, and it leads to that sort of cakey look throughout the day. So my tip is to use a small, soft, sort of fluffy brush to target powder only where you need it. Two options I have are the Goss airbrush. It's a very soft, sort of small brush that fits really well in certain areas of the face. I think this is now discontinued, but there are a lot of similar brushes with this shape. Another affordable option is the Real Techniques setting brush. This is one of my all-time favorite brushes. As you can see, mine is dirty. But the shape is excellent. It's very small. It has a sort of fluffier feel to it, and a fluffier brush in general will apply less product. It'll be less saturated on the skin. This can work with any setting powder. You could go for something more mattifying. You could go for a pressed powder. You could go for a loose powder. I'm just gonna go for my Old Faithful Cover FX Perfect Setting Powder. This comes in light and deep. So this is a loose powder, and you really want to be very conservative with how much you apply. So this is the kind of powder that has the lid and it has the holes where powder comes through. I sort of shake it up, and then I take my small brush, I pick up a little bit of powder from the cap, and then this part is key. I swirl it into the brush and make sure it's evenly distributed. So when you swirl the brush into the cap, the powder gets evenly dispersed throughout the brush. It's coating all of the bristles evenly, and you're gonna get a nice sheer, soft application of powder. Whereas when you apply powder directly from the component, you see the powder is really concentrated on the areas where I picked it up. And when that goes on your face, you're gonna have random areas where powder is really cakey and other areas where you maybe don't have very much powder at all. So swirling it and sort of coating your brush evenly, it gives you the most even application. And with that even coating of powder, you really just want to apply softly and really gently, only in the areas where you need powder. And if you want to skip certain areas, you can do that because you're not applying a ton of powder. You won't see a really obvious change in texture from matte to dewy, for example. So I just sort of like to tap and set around my T-zone. And you can see, I mean, this is all with just one swirl of powder. I may go back and add a little bit more to my forehead, but you want to sort of tap over areas where you concealed to set in that concealer, and just apply powder where you need it. For example, I don't really like to apply powder around the more highlighted areas of my face or around the edges and the perimeter of my face just because I don't really need it. I mostly need it down my T-zone. So that's my face powdered down the T-zone, mostly through the center of my face. And I know powder products get a lot of hate these days. I mean, I realize we're all on the cream product train, but I think they are underrated. And I don't know, to me, a powder is an essential. It's really just about how you use it. And I think powder does a really beautiful job of setting makeup and sort of smoothing out maybe the pore area in the T-zone. It is absolutely a basic for me. It's all about how you use it and using a light hand. So I'm going to finish up the rest of my makeup, and then I will show you the very last step. Okay, so I applied the rest of my makeup. I just added a bit of the Victoria Beckham Beauty bronzer around the perimeter of my face, and I also used that just in my crease on the eyes. I did my brows, some mascara. I used the Victoria Beckham Beauty lip liner in the shade O2, which is just kind of my go-to lip liner for an everyday lip look. And then to finish off, I actually just tried for the first time the Revlon Super Lustrous lipstick in the shade Fire and Ice, which is this beautiful sort of, I don't know, like a watermelon coral sheer red. And I love the Revlon Super Lustrous formula. I think it's one of the best drugstore lip formulas, and I'm very into this shade. It's very fun, but because it has that sheerness, even though it's a bright color, it doesn't feel like you're committing to like an intense lip look. The last step that we are going to discuss is a setting spray. And this is a step that may seem superfluous or excessive or unnecessary, but I actually think it's a step that makes a huge difference at the end of a makeup application. You now on your skin have skincare, foundation, concealer, any cheek products, powder, and you want to sort of meld all of the layers together so they look one with the skin. And a very light mist of setting spray will achieve that for you by sort of melting into the skin and melding all of the products together. It sort of works to very lightly bind all of the different products on your face together. So there are a variety of different kinds of setting sprays. I feel like this is a category that has totally exploded over the last like 2-3 years. So if you have dry skin, you may look for a setting spray that has some oils in it, something a little bit more emollient to give you hydration throughout the day. So something like the Milk Hydro Grip setting spray is a really good one because it has just a touch of oil in it that will give you that dewy look throughout the day. You can also use a facial spray that is not designated as, for example, a makeup setting spray. So for example, the Chantecaille Pure Rose Water is beautiful. It's a beautiful spray mechanism. It's obviously very bougie. Or you can use something that is designated for makeup and for long wear, like the Scandinavia Makeup Finishing Spray. So this is actually very similar to the Urban Decay All Nighter, which is a cult classic for a reason. This is a setting spray that I would use for special occasions, for a long day of makeup, for an event or something like that. And this is something I would use more in the everyday. Just make sure that whatever you use, the spray component is very lightweight. That's kind of why I love this Chantecaille one. I don't know if you can even see the mist because it's so fine. So you want something that's gonna give you a very sheer, even, lightweight application all over the face and not something that's gonna like spit water droplets and mess up all of your hard work. So this is my skin after the setting spray has set down, and I don't know if you can tell a huge difference in the finish of my skin, but I can tell just in the sense that I think overall it looks more like real skin and less like makeup, which is always the goal in this sort of look. So I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that this video was useful to you in some way. If you did like it, I'd love for you to subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.